This is KJ here, going over 7.07, Review Biochemistry. Review concepts presented in the lesson Carbohydrates and Fats, and the lesson Proteins and Nucleic Acid. Several types of organic compounds are biologically important. You will find many of them, including carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, in the foods that you eat. Your cells break them down for energy or building blocks. Many of them are biological polymers, and their monomers link together in dehydration reactions, called condensation reactions, to form various bonds. One class, nucleic acids, carries the genetic information that determines an organism's individual characteristics. And this is the snake venom. Do you remember which class the snake venom belonged to? It was protein. So here's the student guide. Key concepts in carbohydrates and fats, organic molecules. Two of the types are lipids and sugars. So lipids are fats, oils, steroids, and sugars are glucose, sucrose, starch. Carbohydrates and fats are the main components of foods and provide energy when broken down. Carbohydrates are sugars and starches, monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, fructose, di or 2 saccharides, sucrose, maltose, lactose, polysaccharides, starches, glycogen. We have glucose, which is C6H12O6, is a 6-sided ring structure with OH groups in specific places above and below the ring. Lipids include solid fats, liquid oils, and solid waxes. You can have triglycerides, glycerol, and 3 fatty acids, so fats and oils. Phospholipids, phosphate head plus 2 fatty acids, like in your cell membranes. Steroids are multi-ring structures, and waxes are long-chain alcohol plus long-chain fatty acids. Key concepts in proteins and nucleic acids. Amino acids consist of a central carbon bound to a hydrogen, NH2 group, COOH group, and the variable R group. Amino acids link together through peptide bonds to form long chains which fold and twist to form proteins. The particular sequence of amino acids determine the protein's shape and function. Nucleotides are monomers for nucleic acids. Nucleotides consist of a sugar, a phosphate group, and a nitrogenous base, either a purine or pyrimidine. Nucleotides link together through phosphodiester bonds to form the nucleic acids DNA and RNA, which carry genetic information. So again, organic molecules, nucleotides, form nucleic acids. Amino acids form proteins through peptide bonds. And then we have some things to go over. And as always, there are some more websites. If you would like to go in and look at them, you can. All right, so we are going to go to our problem set, 95, and talk about carbohydrates and fats. Living things use carbohydrates and lipids for energy support and storage. Both carbohydrates and lipids are made mostly of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and they both store energy in the form of carbon-carbon and carbon-hydrogen bonds. However, these two classes of compounds have very different structures. Carbohydrates consist of one or more rings of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. A single one of these rings is called a monosaccharide. Two of them joined together to form a compound is a disaccharide. When large numbers of monosaccharides bond together, they form a polymer called a polysaccharide. In contrast, a lipid consists of fatty acids bonded together in different ways. These fatty acids are chains of carbon atoms with hydrogen atoms attached. Chemists divide lipids into 3 main groups: oils, fats, and waxes. In oils and fats, 3 fatty acid chains are bonded to a molecule of glycerol. Oils are liquid at room temperature, and fats are solid at room temperature. In waxes, 2 fatty acid chains are linked together. Like fats, waxes tend to be solid at room temperature. By mass, lipids hold more than twice as much energy as carbohydrates. So this one has you do questions 1, 2, and 3. Although you're not going to be drawing on the quiz, I will tell you that it does give you pictures. So it might give you a picture of a lipid or a picture of a nucleic acid or a picture of a sugar. And so it could give you something like this and say, what is this? Is this a lipid or nucleic acid or protein? And so you definitely want to go through and make sure that you know things like, because fats and oils contain 3 fatty acids bond to a glycerol molecule, they're called a triglyceride. So it will look like this, except the R will be lots of carbons. In our other notes, we went through the pictures of the purines and the pyrimidines, just so you kind of have an idea of what they look like. You can have glucose, for example, is going to be your single ring here. If you have many together, that's polysaccharides. So that's the big thing from the quiz for this. So I'm not going to go through how to draw these, but I will. Let's go through the first question. If you want to go through it yourself, it does say to do 1, 2, and 3, so feel free to do that. Question 1 says cellulose, a carbohydrate that gives structure to plants, is a compound formed by linking many glucose molecules together with strong chemical bonds. Is cellulose a monosaccharide, disaccharide, or polysaccharide? Explain your answer. Hit pause. And the answer, of course, is that since a monosaccharide is single, disaccharide is 2, poly is many, cellulose is made of many monosaccharides joined together, so it's polysaccharide. Again, this is what a lipid looks like. If you add in some more hydrogens, which of course they assume are there to fill up the bonds, it would look more like this. So they're very big. You can see it has 1, 2, 3 fatty acid chains, whereas, for example, your cell membranes, they are only going to have 2 fatty acid chains. And then there's number 3 if you want to pause it and look that one over as well. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to the next set of problems. Proteins and nucleic acids. Actually, before we start this one for the quiz, make sure you know the difference between saturated and unsaturated. Make sure you know what those are talking about, and know things like, if I have a steroid, what does that belong to? If I have amino acids, what does that belong to? If I have something that ends in -ose, what would that be? Like a sugar. So know a few of those type of things as well. All right, let's go ahead and start this proteins and nucleic acids. Proteins perform many different functions for living things, including support, movement, and catalyst of reactions. Nucleic acids store genetic information. Proteins are among the most versatile of all organic molecules. Some proteins act as catalysts in the chemical reactions that occur in cells. Some proteins provide support and strength for organisms. Still other proteins help organisms move. Despite their many different roles, all proteins have a similar basic structure. Proteins, which are also called polypeptides, are polymers. They are made up of subunits or monomers called amino acids. All the proteins in living things are combinations of about 20 different amino acids, which can be combined in millions of different ways to form proteins. These chains of amino acids then fold upon themselves to form the large three-dimensional molecules called proteins. The directions for assembling the chains of amino acids in their proper order are stored in another type of organic polymer, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, are composed of repeating units called nucleotides, which contain a phosphate group, a sugar, and a nitrogen-containing molecule called a base. All right. So here's a good one. This is like a quiz question. Which of the following diagrams shows the structural formula of an amino acid? And remember proteins and nucleic acids. An amino acid contains both an amino group and a carboxylic acid. Proteins are long chains of amino acids joined together by peptide bonds. Nucleic acids are chains of nucleotides. Each nucleotide is composed of a sugar, a phosphate group, and a nitrogen-containing base. There are 4 main nitrogen-containing bases in DNA. The nucleic acid that stores the genetic information of organisms. The bases can bond with one another only in specific ways. All right, so which one is the structural formula for an amino acid? And it says an amino acid contains an amino group, which is NH2, and a carboxylic acid. To solve this problem, examine each answer choice to see whether it contains both an amino group and a carboxylic acid. And so the answer is C. So we're looking for an amino group, carboxylic acid, and then we have an H and an R group. All right. Describe the formation of a peptide bond. And so it's a condensation. So remember, you're going to have an OH come together with an H. They are going to make water, and then this N is going to bond with this C. So if you'd like to, go ahead and hit pause and read through this one. And then remember that the letter R is used to represent a side chain in an organic compound. In most cases, the R stands for a carbon chain. However, it can also represent other structures, such as rings. Describe the parts of nucleic acid molecule. The diagram below shows parts of a molecule of DNA, a nucleic acid. Each nucleic acid molecule is a polymer made up of subunits called nucleotides. Each nucleotide is made up of 3 parts: a phosphate group, a cyclic monosaccharide, so in other words, that's sugar that's a ring, and a nitrogen-containing base. All right. Identify the nucleotides in the diagram and identify the phosphate groups, monosaccharides and nitrogen-containing bases that make them up. So go ahead, hit pause, look it over, and it says a phosphate group consists of phosphorus atom and 4 oxygen atoms. Okay, so you should have said, oh, like right here, or oh, like right here, right here. A cyclic monosaccharide is a ring that contains an oxygen. So right here, right here, right here, and right here. And I think the first one I kind of made it seem more like a triangle. It's that pentagon shape. Okay. And let's see. And then the nitrogen-containing base is the remaining part of the molecule. The diagram on the next page shows them shaded in a different color. All right. So you can see here, it might be a lot easier to see, and then you can say like, oh yeah, there's the backbone, here's the other backbone, here's where they're put together, and then look, these are what? These are the hydrogen bonding saying, oh, I just want to be really close to you because positive and negative are attracted. All right, question 1. Which of the following structural formulas shows an amino acid? All right, so go ahead and look them over. Hit pause, make your choice. Answer is, an amino acid contains both an amino group and a carboxylic acid. The only answer choice that contains both of these is A. So we have our NH2 and our COOH. So it's A. 2 nucleic acids are sometimes called polynucleotides. Explain why this is an accurate name for nucleic acids. Hit pause, get your answer. Answer is, a nucleic acid is a chain of nucleotides. In other words, it is a polymer made up of nucleotide monomers. Therefore, it is a polynucleotide. And question 3, describe the relationship between amino acids and proteins. Hit pause, get your answer. Answer is, proteins are long chains of amino acids bonded together by peptide bonds. That's important. So amino acids make peptide bonds to form proteins. All right, good luck on your quiz. As always, if you have questions, let me know.